What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Smooth Podcast, simply motivating others onward through hope. Here to the left of me, I have a man of many talents. We're going to talk about his biggest one, arguably, to date. Eric, what's going on?
What's up, Ray? Listen, man, I'm a big admirer of this podcast. So as soon as you hit me, I'm like, bro, I'm down.
Yes, sir. Let's talk. Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to say that he's been a supporter of mine since we met a few years ago. It's one of those things where like the high level brothers kind of connect and we can appreciate what each one of us got going on. And I really admire this guy. So first and foremost, I want to get started with, where were you born and raised?
I was born in Baltimore, Maryland. I lived in Baltimore, Maryland for 7 to 8 years and then moved to Bel Air, Maryland, which is like the suburbs part of Maryland. And was there till I graduated high school and came up here to Rhode Island to play basketball.
Okay. And now, when you went to Bryant, how many of the wire jokes did you get?
Yeah, so many, right? And I think the biggest thing is that...
What was the funniest one? Do you remember one that you're like, all right, like you got that one?
I think the funniest one, and maybe it wasn't a joke, but one of my good friends, Barry.
Yeah.
He's like, there's no way the wire actually like looks like that in terms of like actual like projects. And I forgot, he came down for something like to Baltimore. He was in Baltimore for something, and we drove by, and he's like, this is like actually like,
yeah,
this is what it looks like. And I'm like, yeah, these are like real projects. Like it's actually insane. So it wasn't a joke, but it's always like funny to be like, people don't realize how real it is.
Yeah.
Maybe not the extent of like how the wire went, but it's real down there for sure.
And now, before you moved to the suburbs, like you were kind of getting accustomed to that style of living?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to come on here up front like I'm some like street person. I came from that perspective. Like my grandmother lived probably blocks away from some of that action. But I mean, my dad's like, listen, man, we gotta get you out of here in terms of making sure that we get you a place where it has a good education. He was, he worked his tail off up to that point to like get us to like the suburbs and stuff. So I didn't really get to live that life, and that was fine with me, right? Because I think I had my own path to kind of go through it without having to go through that stuff.
So. Sure. And now, when you came to Rhode Island, were you surprised that there was like black people that lived in Rhode Island, or what did you think of Rhode Island when you first came?
Man, the first thing I thought of Rhode Island, people kept on saying Cape Verde, and I thought that was a place in Rhode Island. I really thought that was a place.
Interesting. That makes sense. Yeah.
And then obviously find out, I was like, no, like a lot of people from Cape Verde come to Rhode Island, and now the story behind that. But no, like going to Bryant, like Bryant wasn't like black, right? So we had to battle that some of my teammates had to battle the fact that Bryant's not a traditionally black school. So it was really just going from high school, which my high school was like a private school. So going from high school to college, it really was no different in terms of demographic. Now, once we started going to the city, like a level 2 or like any of those places, like, yeah, like it was like, all right, like this is where we should be. Like this is where we could be. But as you know, Bryant's on like the outskirts.
Right. Yeah. And now getting a basketball scholarship, you were the man in high school, huh?
So that's the thing. Like, and it's different with sports up here and sports down there. Like, I feel like sports up here, when you get a scholarship, it's like, oh, like you're like this, that, and the third. In Maryland, bro, like
there's so many.
At least back in the day, like people was getting a scholarship left and right, because like we're hooping like state DMV, like in terms of DC, Maryland, Virginia, like we're all hoopers down there. All the hoopers that like a Melo or like a KD from the DC standpoint, like we all hoop. So like getting a scholarship, while it was a great achievement,
y'all acclaimed Melo.
Melo, what do you mean? We literally have a Melo Center named after Carmelo Anthony. He was in Baltimore for a little bit there. What you mean? What do you mean?
Was he born in New York?
He probably was born there, but he was in Maryland.
Okay.
He was in Maryland. He was in Baltimore. But in terms of like getting a scholarship, in terms of like Maryland coming up here, like yeah, it was tough. Because like like I said, my parents like moved us to the suburbs, right? But moving to the suburbs, it was like, I mean, we were like the Dave Chappelle thing. We were like the poor rich people from that perspective. And obviously the 2008 financial crisis hit, and we were affected by that, bro. And I say all to say is that while a couple of people on my team, they went to D1, D2. I had one player go to the NBA who was like on my actual team. For me, it was big because like, bro, it was either get a scholarship or not go to college. Like we didn't have like the bread like that, like in living in that area that we were in. So it was big for me, but in terms of
you weren't good academically to.
I was great academically, but in terms of like the actual full ride and like a full ride education to the school, it's good. Yeah, maybe. I had Navy looking at me, I had Cornell looking at me. But Cornell was like, you had to wait till the summer. I'm like, like I kind of want to do it now before I go into my senior year. So, yeah, I signed that line on Brian, and that's probably one of the most happiest days of my life.
Okay, cool. And what are some similarities that Rhode Island has with Baltimore, if you can name any?
That's a good question. I don't think there's not that much, I would say. Like, I think those are two separate cities, or two separate places. I mean, if I think about Providence and Baltimore, let's do Providence, Baltimore. Two separate places with two distinctly different people there. That I couldn't relate that. Like, I really couldn't relate. I had to rack my brain to find similarities for sure. I came up here, bro. People thought I was an alien. Like, the way I talked, the way I like dressed, the way I walk. So it was like, I came up here. I stood out like a sore thumb. For sure.
And so Bryant finishes up, and what do you do after Bryant?
Yeah, so after Bryant, so my senior year of Bryant, and we could talk about Bryant in terms of like going there and playing basketball. So like my freshman year, I didn't really play. Like I redshirted the first half of the year, then somebody got hurt, and I actually ended up playing the second half of the year. Sophomore year, I didn't play, and I say that all to say, like, I'm building up in terms of what I ended up doing. Junior year, I actually played a good amount. I was feeling myself, and then senior year, I didn't play at all. So I'm like, all right, well, hoop dreams are.
How'd you go from junior year playing a lot to senior not playing at all?
Well, we had a couple of players who were hurt my junior year. And listen, guys were better than me. Like, that's what it is, and they ended up playing more. And it was like the summer of my junior going to senior. I'm like, bro, like, I'm not going to be playing basketball like for the rest of my life from that perspective. And I still had that dream going up to that point. So senior year, I ended up like just applying for different jobs and trying to get different jobs from that perspective. And the first job out of college, I was a store manager at CVS, bro, like for maybe 4 years.
Oh, wow.
3-4 years. Yeah.
So that. And leading up to that point, did you have any like experience working at a drugstore or whatever?
No. The biggest experience that I had, because again, I was literally a broke college student with a full ride scholarship. Right. So as cool as to have a full ride scholarship, you still had to pay for food. You still had to pay for other things. And I actually got a job on campus as like a concessions manager. So like, again, you go to like a lacrosse game, a football game. Like, I was the guy serving you like whatever, bringing you up and kind of going from there. So that was my only experience with actually like working. And, I actually used that to get a job at CBS, put in my resume, and obviously, went from there.
Okay. And fast forward to, I guess, maybe a year and a half ago. First off, when did your love for reading start? Did it start back in Baltimore, or did it grow in college?
So my love for reading started back when I was like 9 years old.
Okay.
Like I said, my upbringing, again, it's not saying it was the worst, but it wasn't the best. And reading, well, first off, basketball was a way to kind of get away from that, right? In terms of like just being away from the house, like hooping. But also when I'm in the house, it's like reading was another way to get away from that. And why I'm sure we'll talk about later why I read fantasy and sci-fi, because like that, I can go to those worlds and get out the world that I'm currently in. So like 8 or 9, I picked up a few books. Like I picked up, the Harry Potter books, like Chronicles of Narnia, a series of Fortune Events. And I really just dived into those books from like 8, 9, 10, all the way up to high school. Kind of dropped in high school and went to college for a little bit, but I was every now and then, picking up books and like reading it in college. And then after college, I stopped for a little bit, and then I picked it up again, and then I stopped, and then COVID happened, I picked up again, and then since COVID, I've just been reading like just straight from that perspective.
And now, were you also able to kind of like read what you needed to for the college material as well, or this is only pertaining to something that you actually want to read?
Yeah, the college material, even the high school material, it was just like, man. So like I'd spark note it, whatever like that.
So you didn't really go through.
No, but like the actual like books, and it's not just fiction books either. Like some nonfiction books, like the self-help books and stuff like that. Like I love those. But when it came to the schooling, and I do regret that. Like I wish I did, read more in school, like actual school curriculum. But that's not the things that really got me going there.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, one day, I don't know if you either started by just starting or you saw someone else do a book review on TikTok, but what made you do your first, I guess, book review on TikTok?
Yeah, so I'll start back a little bit in terms of like the story leading up to it. So I work in tech, and with working in tech comes a volatility of like you never know when you may like lose your job because it's such a volatile industry. Like, you know, tech can go under, your company can go under. And I was always like searching for like something, like some side hustle, something to do. I did like sports betting for a while. I did like actual investing, like in terms of like day trading stuff for a while. I even started like a bikini line, like a drop shipping bikini line. And like I was like forcing it, oh, I want to like have, you know, second income, third income, fourth income. And them drugs were just flopping, bro. Like it just wasn't working. And then like literally last year, I was like, yo, bro, like I'm just gonna like focus on like what I have going on right now. And if something happens, and so be it. Like I'm making a good living, like I'll just go hard at my job. And if it doesn't work out, like I just find another job. Like I shouldn't be worried about that. And bro, I tell you, like soon as I like got rid of like that force, like my plans, like me doing my plans, bro. And it's so funny. It's like, you know, I know we probably don't talk too religious on here, but it's like God's like laughs at you with your plans and gives you a better plan.
Right.
Bro, I was sitting, it was like, what was it? June or July last year. I was just sitting there chilling. One of my friends who was actually a reader too, because none of my friends read, but like a couple of them do. They're like, hey, like there's this thing called Book Talk, and like people are like recommending books and like they're doing from that perspective. So I would go to it and I pick up the books and I'm like, ooh, these books are kind of good, kind of not good, but these not with the books I'm currently reading right now. Because I was reading during that time. Like I was reading different books from that perspective. And I seen it and I'm like, wait, if they can kind of do that, like why not I just try it, right? I'll try it for like, you know, 60 days and like see what
So I need an honest answer from you.
Yeah.
When you came to that inclination that you wanted to try it,
Yeah.
for what?
Yeah. So just to find a community. So my big thing was like find a community because I had nobody else to talk to like about in terms of books, just in general. And
especially like fantasy.
Yeah. And what I found on like when I was scrolling through those feeds of like those books that maybe I didn't like or maybe like it wasn't for me, people were like commenting and like talking and like conversing and talking about the books, the highs, the lows. I'm like, oh, I kind of want that. Like I don't want to just like read these books in a bubble and like not be able to talk to anybody about it, right? I read the books, I post something on Goodreads, and that's it, right? Instead of having people to talk to. So I was like, man, like I read this dope book. In my first video, it wasn't even a fantasy book that I reviewed. It was like a thriller book that I read, like an underrated thriller book. I put the camera or I put my phone on like the laptop. You know, I had like a thing of wine. I was drinking the wine. I was talking about the book. It was like so raw. It was dumb raw, bro. And like, I think that first video, it first started off, I had like 300 views. And then it started picking up a little bit more because like Book Talk started picking up more. And then it started getting a little bit more views. And like people comment, I'm like, oh, okay. Like this is like a community. Like I like that. I like that. So then I started doing more reviews. And yeah, I mean, it was slow going in the beginning, but like it was something I liked and like it's something I love, right? Yeah. And it didn't feel like a force. Like, oh, I read a book, I'll just talk about it.
Right.
In the beginning, there was like no monetary thing. It was literally all vibes, bro. Literally all vibes.
Mm-hmm. And what was the review that I guess nothing was the same after?
Yo, so in December, and so I did that. So my first video, I think it was like August 24th or something like that. Because I had my 1 year coming up. I'll be something special for that. So it was like August 24th or something like that. And I was doing reviews here and there between August, September, October, November. And there's like books every now and then. And like December came around and I probably had at that point maybe like 5,000, like my community grew to like 5,000 followers. And I read a book that was like a self-published book and like nobody was like really heard about it. And I rate books pretty hard from my perspective. And I gave the book a 6 stars, bro. When I tell you 100,000 people looked at that video the first day. And then that video now has 1.9 million views. That was the one that was like, people was like, oh, snap. Like, I got to pick up this book and see what it's about. And then it came back to me like, yo, you're right. This book's insane. Like, what else do you have? What else do you have? What else do you have? And that's like the community aspect of it, right? Like, not the cloud aspect. Like, I just posted because I thought this book was fire. I thought I was going to do like my normal videos was doing like 1,000 views, 2,000 views. Man, I went to bed, woke up that morning because they did 100,000 views in a day. I woke up that morning, had 300,000 views. I had like 10,000 followers off one day, like one day. Yeah. And I was like, oh, the snap. So then I started growing. So then I went from 10,000 to like 12,000 to 13,000. And a couple days later, because I was reading another book after I posted that video. It was like this book called like The Will of the Many, which is a big book now. So I read that book, and then I did a review on that book. That book did 200,000 in a day, and then it kept going from there. And I ended up getting like 20,000 followers out of that. So I started the year going from 3,000 in a community with like not even like making a dime to 30,000 like community members or followers from that perspective. And I still wasn't making a dime because those videos were before like I had 10,000 followers when you could start making money on the TikTok app. So I was like, dang, like this is dope. But I'm like, wait a minute, like I kind of got something here. Like people are coming to me for like book reviews, not like coming to me for nothing crazy, like actual book reviews. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, so I started the year. I started the year, and by the way, none of my friends knew this. Yeah. None of my friends knew this. My family didn't know this. Nobody knew this. Yeah. And I mean, we can talk about that later, why I did it that way, but nobody knew. Like I had 30,000 people like literally coming to me, messaging me, like saying like, yo, like we want more, like what book next? What book next? And while I have been a reader for years, I never consider myself an expert because again, I'm just gonna be frank, like, look at me, bro. Like I'm just a black kid from Baltimore, Maryland. Like who's gonna look to me for a book review or like a book from that perspective? And after I gained that amount, I'm like, man, listen, bro, I got something. Like I gotta see what I can do with this.
And when it came to like all the followers coming in and stuff like that, what's to be said about your ego during this time? Yeah. Like, are you noticing yourself like feeling like a different person? Are you, because you can be, in my opinion, you can be humble and stay humble, but still feel way better about yourself from social media. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah. So the biggest thing is I would say is that I haven't changed since last year in terms of like me, like not like popping out of places or doing things like that. Like I feel like I stay the same. The only thing that I would say that I gained from that was just confidence. Right. Bro, like now I feel like if I put something out there, that joint's going to work. Like that's going to work. Like that is going to work. Like that's the ego part of it. Knowing like because I don't post every single day, but I know when I post, I know it's going to do well. Yeah. Like I know I would never, well, let me knock on wood. I won't fall victim to like what other people fall into in terms of like that lull and from that perspective. But that's the only ego thing that I have in terms of like my actual ability to continue to not only give people like fire book recommendations, but build a community of people in terms of like, bro, people come to me and they say the craziest things about like, yo, like, and you would think it's just books. You changed my life, bro. Like I could show you, I got some messages loaded up that'll have you read of just how people say like, yo, you changed my life. Mm-hmm. Like just by this book that you gave me. And I read this book. And if you didn't give me this book, I don't know what I'd do. I don't know what I'd do. And I'll bring up one of those things and maybe you can read it. Yeah. Because it just, you don't realize how much of an impact you had. And I'll talk more about this later in terms of like your actual community. But like if you read this, you can read that out loud. Like there's no name on it.
I've been going through a tremendous amount in my life as of late. I've been battling depression. There's been winning more often than I like. Your video describing your 6-star books. By the way, 6-star I'm assuming is like really good.
6 out of 5. So it breaks the scale.
Okay, because I was wondering about that. Yeah, okay, cool. I cried in a positive way for the first time in months. And maybe more importantly, I enjoyed something for the first time in months. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this is powerful.
Crazy, bro. Like just off like a book recommendation. Right. And I tell people all the time is like, while I know you're scared or while I know you don't want to put yourself out there, it doesn't have to be social media, it could be anything. There's somebody out there who's looking for something that you gotta get. There's somebody out there. Like it's not just you in a vacuum. Like there's somebody out there looking for, you know, that post, or they're looking for, you know, that business you want to start, or they're looking for that social media, they're looking for those books. Like they're looking for something. Yeah. And bro, I get 20 of those a week. A week. And back to the original, like the ego thing, like that's the only thing that I know is like that I am actually making an impact for some people off of books, bro. Yeah. Like off of books, like nothing crazy. Like I go home at night, I sleep well at night, that I'm not serving people like something crazy. So that's the only ego part of it. But other than that, bro, like I struggle with talking about it. I really struggle with talking about like I don't know how many I have now, but like I struggle about even grasping the fact that if you take Madison Square Garden's like 19,000 people, I have almost 10 times that amount in terms of people who actually follow me, right? And some of my videos have millions of people who come to that video and engage with that video.
Yeah.
So I joke all the time. It's like, I don't ever talk about it. I don't bring it up at parties. People bring it up to me. Like, I would rather not talk about it because I started not talking about it, and I'm not going to talk about it now because, again, like, it's not really about me. It's more about the community that I'm building.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw a little wrench in there.
Go ahead.
So obviously I'm like social media wise, I'm nowhere your status, right? But
I mean, we get that.
I said like followers and things like that.
All right.
But I mean, in Rhode Island, of course, okay, sure.
Yeah, bro.
Whatever, right?
Yeah.
But what I will say is I think the ego plays in that too, because like I like not saying anything that I have going on, and people like dragging it out, or people like saying, "Hey, like I know you from that." Like, my ego likes that better.
Oh no, I don't. Like now I'm to the point now where I can be anywhere, at least in the United States. We'll see in the world because I haven't traveled outside the United States yet, but I do have a community who is outside the United States. I could be anywhere in the United States. And I will bet maybe 1 out of 2 places that I go to, somebody will recognize me, and somebody will come up to me in person and be like, "Yo, Smitty, you're Smitty," and that skis me out. It literally skis me out, bro.
Do you ever say no?
No, I never say no. I never say no, but
I ain't me.
No, I never say no, but I look this way because you never know. You never know, bro. Like I could be saying I never talk bad about books, which. That's to my favor because if I talk bad about books, that's different energy. But you never know, bro. It could be like some random fan like come up and stuff like that, and it's like, but we was in LA and we was at some random bar, and like the waitress was like, "Oh wait, you're Smitty." Like I read the book you gave, and like my friends were like, "What?" My friends were like, "What?" I'm like, "Bro, this happens all the time. I'd be on a train from New York, it happens. I'd be at a bar in New York, it happens. Like it's while I do see what you're saying in terms of like, oh, like that's cool that it happens. It's still cool that it happens, but it's also like it's not why I started it. You know what I mean? And I try to duck those situations, but it also comes with the territory now. Like I gotta get out of that shell and understand it comes with the territory. People are gonna recognize you. Like you're helping people, so people are gonna recognize you.
Right. Another thing is like you might not want it, but you are definitely stepping into the lane of it becoming your responsibility to let all the people out there know, especially the black men out there, that like, hey, if you want to read fantasy, go do that. Don't feel like just because, your neighborhood doesn't condone whatever you're reading that you should just put it away. No, be yourself. If you want to read something like that, then read something like that. Like, that is your responsibility now.
No, it is. And that's why I'm doing more things like this, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like, while my platform does speak for itself, it is more like the books. Like I don't ever talk about the other side of it, right? Like hey, like you can do anything type side of it, or even the business side of it,
right?
And I do feel like you're right. Like I do have an obligation. Like I'm not gonna say like I have to do it, but if I really want to build community and have more people like kind of get the same feelings that I get when somebody says, "Bro, like you really helped me out there," even though like I just said you should read this book. Like I want to spread that for sure.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Now, speaking of like the followers and stuff like that, what's the craziest DM you received so far?
Like what? Like what do you mean crazy? Like crazy in what way?
Okay, so in a way of like it totally being left field, had nothing to do with the book, but aka she felt like she could send you this message through the TikTok DM.
Yeah, I mean, I get those, and for my safety and for the person's safety, I delete those. But one of the craziest messages that I've gotten, not from a woman follower, but some guy was in jail. Like he was literally in jail. I don't know how these people in jail have like phones now, but he's in jail, and he's like, "Bro, I read the Way King's basically recommendation." I'm like, first off, like, should I even like read this message because you're in jail? But he's like, "Yo, I read the Way King's basic recommendations. I have a 6-month bid, but I read it in like 3 weeks, and like, yo, you're right." And like I get out, he said
I would argue that they probably would be tuned into you the most, because that's like arguably they got like 3 things to do in there.
No,
that's one of them.
I mean, think about it now. Yeah, you're right. He said he had a 6-month bid, and like he's getting out like in a few weeks, whatever like that. And I really wanted to ask him, like, how do you have a phone?
Yeah.
Like in like, first, how you watching TikTok in jail? But me being me, I'm like, bro, when you get out, like, you'll let me know and send me your Amazon wish list. I'll send you the rest of the series from that perspective. So that was probably like the craziest one that I can talk about. But there's other ones that I won't bring up on here because those get deleted very easily.
Staying on that topic,
Yeah.
I thought it was criminal that you didn't do like a romance novel kind of like review series in the month of February. I thought that was criminal.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I'm sure something along the lines popped in your head. Why did you opt not to?
So I was still in a building stage. And from a building stage, what I'm talking about is I was still heavy fantasy, heavy sci-fi. And I felt like I didn't corner that market yet. And I didn't want to derail it just for a fad, right? I wanted to keep that streak going in terms of, you come to me for this, you come to me for that. Now, would I do something like it now? Yeah, for sure. And I respect your opinion. And it was,
I said this like,
and you are the only one who said it. Right?
Yeah.
But that's when it comes to like you locking into yourself and knowing like, yo, like this is what I know is going to work. And while I do hear that, and I probably will do that at some point, I need to stick to what I know, I like perspective there. And I heard you, and I thought about it, but I'm like, man, like February is also Black History Month. I could highlight some crazy, Black fantasy authors, crazy, Black sci-fi authors. And it was funny the way I stayed with that. One of the biggest books that I've reviewed, Rage of Dragons by a Black author, exploded again. Like that video has like 600,000 views, and millions of people watched it. And I don't know how many people bought it, but he's doing well now.
Yeah,
he's doing well. But that's what you get from sticking with like what you want to do. If I went the other way, that author of Rage of Dragons, he probably wouldn't see that success. So I'm glad I stuck with it.
Not including anything monetary.
Okay.
What's been the best gift or the best present that you received so far through doing these book reviews? Whether it be from a company, whether it be from an author, what's something that someone gave you that was like, wow, like I really appreciate it, and it was not monetary?
And it was not monetary, like a compliment?
A compliment. I don't know if you've gotten a gift of like a certain amount of books or.
Yeah, I don't really. So I don't accept gifts. There's like this thing called book mail, and people put like their wish lists in like their like bio, and people can send them gifts. I don't do that because now that I'm getting to whatever I got now, like I rather do the blessing than anything else. I think the best, maybe not gift, maybe let's do experience.
Okay.
The best experience
was it recent?
Was definitely the Bridgerton one. Bridgerton one, and that happened so crazy, bro. Like you want me to go into how that happened? So this was back in, I forgot when, maybe April, May, beginning of April, May. Spotify reached out and they're like, yo, like, we love your content and we think you could be a great partner of us. Like, what do you think? Like, what's your rate? And again, back then I had like 50,000, 60,000 like followers. So I gave them a rate of what that was. Like, all right, cool, boom. And I didn't hear from them for like weeks, bro. I'm like, dang, man, like, I thought I had it, blah, 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 blah. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, bro, just lock in. Like, if you're on their map, you're on somebody else's map too, right? So why are you worried about them not like, getting back to you? So boom, boom. So a couple of weeks later, like I did another video that gave me more followers. I went from 50 to 60 to 70. I think like then I got to 75 or something like that. And I still had Spotify in my mind. I'm like, yo, this is natural, bro. Like this is natural for me to partner with y'all and like audiobooks. Like this is very natural.
Yeah.
So I do believe in the art of following up. I wish I followed up earlier, but I followed up weeks later. And I'm like, yo, just checking in. Like, I know we talked weeks ago. I just want to see if there's a real opportunity from that respect. Because other people were reaching out to me at that time. So I was like, all right, like, if they want to go, we can go. But if not, I'll go with somebody else. So they hit me back like, yeah, sorry about the long process. Like, this is just how it happened.
When you say Spotify hit you up, like, what does that mean and look like?
So the brand, they had somebody representing the brand reach out to me and like send me a whole like brief in terms of like, hey, like this is confidential. I mean, I can talk about it now because I'm signed to them. Like, this is confidential, but here are some specs. Like, would you be down with it? And like I said, yeah. And said, oh, yeah, go back and talk. And working in corporate, you know, that thing doesn't take like a day.
Did you hit them with the, oh, by the way, like, my price since you asked, like, went up?
Nah. So I didn't hit him. I didn't hit him with that. Because what I gave him in the beginning was higher. Like, was like a lot higher than my thing. So like, again, I do like whatever rate for a follower there is, and I add tax to it. So I added some tax to it. And I was growing, and I almost hit that tax. Right now, I'm obviously past that tax now. But so they hit me back like, hey, like, just been a long process. You know, we'll get back to you soon. And I'm like, all right, well, they're BSing me. So like literally the next day I was going to, I might say the company's name. I was going to say, yeah, like I'll sign with you. They hit me back and they're like, hey, by the way, where do you live? And I was like, oh, this is random. So I was like, I live in Rhode Island. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, Spotify. But I also work in New York because I do work in New York, right? And I go up once a month. And like, oh, okay, dope. I'm going to send you something. I'm going to send you a separate email after this and we'll go from there. Bro, the next email that I got, it says Spotify, Netflix, invite you to Bridgerton. And I'm like, I don't even know what Bridgerton is, but I know like everybody loves Bridgerton. Like everybody loves that show. And like I was asking around, and people were like, yeah, I really love this show a lot. Like, what do you mean like you're going to the premiere? Like what do you mean you got invited to the premiere? Like, yeah, go. So I'm like, all right, I'll go. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna go, I'm just gonna watch, and I'm just gonna do whatever like that. Bro, like I'm telling you, 3 days beforehand, like no warning, they're like, oh, we also need like a bio and like a headshot because we need it for a red carpet. And I'm like, excuse me? So I literally said, red carpet, what does that entail? And they're like, it entails you walking a red carpet and get your picture taken as like a Spotify partner. But I'm like, I signed nothing.
Yeah.
Like I literally signed nothing. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, I think I got it. So put on my green suit, bro. I went there and bro, that's one of the most craziest things ever, to walk the red carpet, get your picture taken. I mean, you've seen the pictures, you've seen the videos, like, bro, there's like literally nothing like it. As a regular person who don't do stuff like that, to walk that red carpet, to be around celebrities. Tasha from Power was there. She's not even in the show. She was there. Like, that was a crazy experience. The night was tough. And then, you know, I sent it because they're like, hey, can you send us pictures, send us videos? I sent them to them. Next day I signed with Spotify, bro.
That's what's up.
Like they signed. Next day they gave me the papers. I'm like, yeah, I'm down.
And now we won't talk about the actual like money for Spotify.
Yeah.
But what are the dues? Like, what can you do? What can't you do?
In terms of what?
In terms of like the content that you make now, because you're signed with Spotify.
Oh, I can do anything I want. In terms of my own content. When it comes to Spotify's content, they have their specific asks that they want me to do.
But that's interesting how they would still allow you to kind of like do whatever.
Yeah, I don't work for Spotify. I work with Spotify, right? So my platform is still my platform. Like I do whatever I need to do on there. Now I don't do anything crazy. Like if I came out crazy and said something, they could terminate a contract for sure. But I don't, so it's fine. But for actual specific Spotify video, like yeah, I gotta stay within the specs, and I respect the specs. Like I can't wear no like Jordans, no Nike. I can't wear no name brands.
Right.
I can't do any of that, but. It's been a good relationship so far. You know, we just read up for this quarter, and you know, hopefully we'll keep that relationship going.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. And for the people that, I guess, the other ways that you make money,
yeah,
can you explain to like the followers out there, what are the separate ways that you're able to make really a honest income?
Yeah,
from TikTok.
Yeah. So. Brands is like probably the number one way to once you get to 10,000 and even under 10,000, as long as you have great content, you can have brands reach out to you and go from there. So Spotify is one, and then publishers actually reach out to me to talk about their book. And I have like a book club app who like I just do videos for like every maybe month or every other month. So that's like the biggest way to make money on TikTok, even Instagram too, is those paid partnerships. But you got to have your joint solid. Like your page has to be like something that a brand could say, "Oh, we want you representing us." And I built that. It took a little bit, right? But I mean, not say a little bit. It took like 6 or 7 months, which I say it to say like it's an anomaly because I know people are gonna go on my page like, wait, a little bit, like it didn't take you that long.
Yeah, right.
But it's an anomaly just because like my growth was crazy. It really takes people a longer time than that. So that's a major way.
I will still say though, it's hard to like really pinpoint. Like you can say like, okay, I posted on this day, so that's where I start my growth. But the growth might have started when you were back in Baltimore and used the fantasy books as an escape, and that's how you grow in your love for it. Because without growing the love for it, you wouldn't have uploaded a review video.
No, you're right.
So like low key, it started years ago.
No, that's fair.
That's a psychology.
No.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
that's fair.
it kind of started like way back when.
You know, the confidence started right there because it was like, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, I know what makes a good book.
Yeah.
For me, I should say. I always caveat with for me because while the majority of people agreed my reviews, agreed my ratings and recommendations, there are a few people who don't.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, brand deals are the major ones, right? And, you know, I mean, I charge a pretty penny for those deals.
What is like? So like, give me like. So say if I am Barnes and Nobles and I just came out with a new book, right? It's a new fantasy, but I need to get more exposure from it.
Yeah.
And I hit you up. I say, hey, can you do a TikTok review on this book here?
Yeah.
You're sending back the price tag at what?
So you know what's funny? Now, as of today, well, not today, but like a couple, like last week, I have a manager now.
Okay, fire.
I have a manager like kind of take care of that now because
and that was reason because we talked not too long ago and you didn't have one.
Yeah, I looking for one. Yeah, I have one. Because not only for like the inbounds that come through and I want to sift through those, but also for like I actually want them to start putting pressure, like trying to find stuff for me now too as well because it's a movement now and I kind of want some more from that perspective. But I would say without going specific into actual numbers, I relate to this. I own a multifamily. I can with one TikTok video pay for that multifamily's mortgage for a 30-second, 60-second. One TikTok video pay for that multifamily's mortgage and have some left over. So, and that's just one video. And I do a lot of those for different brands from that perspective. So that's the type of money we're talking. And that's why when people, like there's so many people out there who have ideas or who half step and say, oh, like I kind of want to do this, to post something, they don't post something for a while.
Yeah.
And seeing how much money you can make from this, I'm like, yo, you just keep going. At least do it for 6 months. Like at least do it for 6 months.
Yeah.
Because that was my thing. Like while I was doing it for fun in the beginning, once I started making money, I'm like, all right, like now that I know how much money I can make, let's see if I can actually make money for this because my work is getting busy. So I'm like, all right, like now I'm splitting time now.
Yeah.
The 6 months, like that came quick. Like it was 2 months. I'm like, yeah, I got to keep going. Right. But that's why people out there, I'm like, bro, like these brands, they pay. They paid for you to represent them. For you to showcase their stuff, like keep going. Like you got something. Like keep going. That's why I want to do this. Like I want to make sure people know. Like while I don't boast about like the money that's coming in, I kind of should talk more about it because maybe that's the hump. Maybe it's the thing that gets somebody over the hump. Maybe somebody's like, yo, like man, like I don't really like my job, or like man, like I always had this idea, but I don't know if the money's worth. The money's there.
Yeah,
the money's there, bro.
Right.
It could be the wallet. It could be books. It could be makeup. It could be food. Keith Lee with food. Like Keith Lee with food. Like, guy's a millionaire.
Right.
Just from getting food and talking about it.
Right.
So these brands will pay. So that's the major one there. You want to.
But another thing that social media helps and is the fact that you're living in Rhode Island, so you're able to like connect with all these people, get all these brand deals from all these different places out of the comfort of being in Rhode Island.
Oh, yeah.
That lets you know that it's like endless. Because if I could do it in Rhode Island, then
you could be anywhere, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and most unknowns people know where I live. They didn't even know like my first name
or care.
Yeah, or care. They're like, yo, like we see what you got going on, and again, I don't just take anything. Like I'm like, all right, like I got to make sure this actually fits what I'm looking for. So I actually research it, and now like I tell my manager my specs. And he makes sure he knows like what exactly like we could work with, because again, if I just took I could take anything, bro, and I could probably make 100 racks like in like 6 months if I really wanted to. But I lose my community off that. And while the money seems great, it's going to be temporary money because then what I'm going to do next year when I have no community?
Yeah.
Right. Like I want that stable money. And while this year I'm making a good amount.
Yeah.
But it's really intentional about what I go with.
Yeah.
So brand deal's big.
Now, another interesting question I have is, when it comes to the quality of life, I'm sure you've thought about, hey, if I could wake up, read a book, call that work for the day, that is the life. Yeah. So how much thought have you given into a certain point where you're going to say, you know what, like I'm going to pack my bags with the corporate 9-to-5 IT job and I'm just going to read books for a little bit?
I think about it all the time. And I think the first step was getting a manager to see exactly how big of a market's out there. So we talk weekly. I can't talk to because I have actually like a day job. We talk weekly about like, all right, what's coming in the door, what he can kind of go get for me. And he has some really, really exciting things coming up for me. So that was the first step. But I think about it all the time, man. Like it's a loose goal because while I love reading books and I love doing those reviews, I actually like working too. Like I actually like the corporate grind. But for me to say that the dream is not to just wake up, read books, post a few videos a week and like enjoy like my life from there. Yeah, I think about that all the time. And my goal is like maybe mid to late next year, if things work out the way I think it's going to work out with my corporate job in terms of all that from there. Like we have some good things going on my corporate side. If that all works out and like I can, be like, all right, I'm in a good spot, like monetary wise, I'm in a good spot, like from my health wise and everything like that. Like I can do this full time and not worry about like, yo, when's the next check gonna come? Because I have a good cushion from the perspective. So I think about it all the time. Now, if it doesn't work out that way, am I gonna be mad? No, because at the end of the day, like you say, we bring back to the ego thing. Like I got the confidence now, bro. Like that I can build something. I can do something. And if I can do it with books, like I'm sure I can do it with something else too as well. So, but yeah, it crosses my mind a lot. And the first step was getting a manager now, but it's not going to be like next month, 2 months from now. And I say next year, but like it could be the year after that. And again, I like working. I like having those two incomes come in, right? Like there's not a week that goes by that I don't get paid.
Right. Now, something that I watched / listened to that gave me a headache just thinking about it is that you said that you have a bad habit of starting multiple series at once. How do you like?
You watch that video.
Yeah, like my head hurts even just thinking about that. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah. What's funny is that not for you, but like when I post that video, I had people telling me like, oh, like how do you keep your story straight? Blah blah blah. But for me, I can only read one book at a time. Like in terms of like if I'm reading this one book, I'm reading this one book, and I have to finish this book. I may be in between different series.
Gotcha.
But I finished one book. There's people out there who read 3 or 4 books at once.
Yeah. No.
So I'm like, pick your.
So you'll finish a whole book.
I move to a different series, and then I'll finish that book. Like, but there's people who would actually read like 3 or 4 books at a time. But yeah, there's no knock on it. My brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah, no.
Now the different series, like watching different TV shows, right? Like you can finish an episode, go to another episode. You won't be in the middle of an episode of one TV show. Then hop to another one, then hop back. Like you'd be like, yo, what's going on?
Yeah.
But for me, it's like I loved it, and now being like somebody who actually talks about books, and like does it for like above a professional level, I guess you'd say, because when you make money from something, you're professional. I think I owe it to my community to diversify too, or else I'd be reading the same books over and over again, and they'd be getting the same content over and over again. But I've always been somebody to jump around between like series, but between reading more than one book at once is where my brain just like, you can't do that, man.
Yeah. Now I know it might not be a perfect science, but I do need an answer from you.
Yeah, I guess so.
How long into a book are you usually able to decide if the book is good or bad?
So there's 2 answers to that. I know within the first 200 pages if it's something, if it's something that
like you read books with one and
no. I mean, no, it's a fair no though. It's a fair no though. Like within 200 pages, I know it's a book that I would keep going on with, but I have to wait to the end of the book to know if it's like actual like 5-star or 6-star, like breaking my scale 6-star thing, because I never fall into the trap of reading a book before it's over with, because I got burned in the past. Like, oh, this is a 6-star, and I get to the ending, and the ending flops. I'm like, this is the worst book ever. Like, what's going on? Like, so in the beginning, it's like first 200 pages, and again, I read long books, so I say 200 pages, but you can kind of pare that down if it's a 200-page book. Within the first 10 pages, you got to know, like, there's something you want to continue. But not to the end of the book where I know, like, it's good, because I need the whole story.
Yeah.
I need the whole story. People love reading in between, like, in the middle of the book, and I'm like, you don't even know how it ends. It could end so bad.
Right.
Or like people like would throw a book off and say, oh, like this book stinks, and then it ends great, and all of a sudden like your rating changes, but you don't let it end. So I don't rate if I don't finish a book, I don't rate it. Like,
yeah.
It just
yeah. If you would have kind of started this book series on Instagram, would it have worked as well as it did on TikTok?
Yeah, that's a good question. I personally think not. There's people out there who argue with that and say it would. I personally think it wouldn't, because when I do the videos on TikTok, it's raw. And it's funny because like people have this whole setup. Like we're set up right here. We have this whole thing right here. Bro, I tell you, I put my phone on my laptop. I hit record. I make sure the background's good. I hit record. I record minutes.
I see a little light in there though. You got a light.
It's my desk light. My desk lamp. I'm telling you, it's my desk lamp. It's literally my desk lamp that I flip to look to go right there.
Okay.
Yeah. My desk lamp goes right there, bro. There was like no overhead when I started this. Sometimes I don't even buy the books. Like I get the books from the library. Like I mostly get my books from the library. So that's like my setup.
Are you like a celeb in there? Like every time you walk in?
Nah. You know,
just throwing books at you.
My lady Meg, she probably doesn't even know what TikTok is. So none of them know like what's going on in there. But so I say to say is like my content, while I think it's dope because it's raw and like I do very minimal editing. Like I sometimes I keep the ums in. Sometimes like I like the editing looks like I need better editing. What I found is that my community loves the realness of that. They loves the authenticity of that. But Instagram is aesthetics. Like I'm sure if I post a video like that, I mean I'll try it one day. Post a video like that on Instagram, I'm like, yo, what is this? Like, no, I want like the background. I want the whatever. Like Instagram is really aesthetics. It's really for me in terms of like the book community is like more of a clout type thing on Instagram than like, yo, I'm giving you books. Like I'm giving you some solid information right now. And while it won't be like the cookie cutter, like you want to see like things flare on the screen, it's just straight information, and that's what people gravitate.
I think TikTok is more of if you have niches that you like.
Yeah.
You can find them. They'll come to you on that.
Yep.
Where Instagram, it's all about either the brand or the person that you like a lot. And whatever they do, that's what you'll kind of mess with. Mm-hmm. I think that's like the disparity.
Yeah. I mean, but either one of those platforms, I would say are hard, right? So I'm not going to say that, oh, like if you have an ideas like me and videos like me, you'll do well on TikTok because people try. And again, it just, I'm blessed to have what I have now, but bro, like, you see my videos. Mm-hmm. TikTok is a 10-second, 20-second, 30-second at maximum, like, attention span type thing. Bro, I record 6-minute videos, and they watch every single second. Every single second. I wouldn't be able to get away with that on Instagram.
I believe that niche means less, but more, like, captivating. Mm. Now, if your stuff's really good at niche, it can grow.
Yeah.
Like if you're just like, fantasy books are cool. It's like, yeah, that's widespread. It's not that in depth. So like a lot of people might hear it, but no one's gonna be like, okay, this is our guy. If you're like this specific book that no one really knows about, is actually really engaging, and this is why. Yeah. You'll get a few people, but they'll be like super, and then it just goes from
bro. Like I look at my analytics on the back end, because like again, while I do this for fun, passion, to get paid for it, I'm still like an analytical guy, and I said, all right, what works? Yeah, like what's going on? Like what's going on the back end?
I also think that once you blow up like super, super, super big, like I know probably will. I think it's gonna be like the perfect level of celebrity because you'll be able to go wherever you want, but like if you want that like like certain like speaking engagements or book readings, you're gonna be looked at like that guy.
Yeah.
But like you could probably still just go to Edge, get a workout, and no one even like
I mean,
whatever.
I mean, couple times I was in Edge, people were like, yo, wait, you live in Rhode Island? And I'm like, yeah, like.
That's great.
The Edge people recognize me there too, bro.
I get that all the time too.
Yeah, of course you do, bro. That's what to tell. I was saying because you said earlier, like, yo, you're social media. I'm like, wait, no, people know you too, bro. Like, what you talking about? No, I mean, again, like, it comes with the territory, and it's just a matter of like understanding that.
You know what's a little bit wild though? Like people that we play basketball with, people that like we hang out with, like. There's a lot of people like us that have like really big things going on. And I just feel like, I know people have been saying this for the longest time, but I do feel like Rhode Island is on the brink of like something. I don't know what the hell that something is, but something.
You know what, where it stemmed from? And maybe I'm talking about for us. Where it stemmed from for us, it was that 2020 summer in the back of Wale's yard where COVID was like rampant. And we were all like, nah, we're not going to let these circumstances overwhelm like what we got going on. And we had some great conversations. Bro, like, reasons why like I'm here talking to you, reasons why we're cool, like even cooler with Wale, Teep and all them, is that summer really proved to us that like, yo, like, the world can be falling apart, but we as a Rhode Island community, and I meant not the whole Rhode Island community, but like the Hoopers who are out there, like we got some motion.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if it's like playing basketball, but like after basketball, we're talking business, we're talking about houses, we're talking about all the type of stuff.
Yeah.
And like since then, that's why I always give you guys respect because I'm not gonna lie, like y'all like saved me. Like there was nothing else to do that summer. Nothing else to do that summer. Y'all saved like it was hooping. I ended up buying a house. I ended up getting a crazy new job. Like, and I attribute it to that summer because man, like the whole world was just out for blood. And it was like, was it Wednesday at like 6, 7 o'clock? We was all together. Yeah. Even when it was like, yo, like COVID's kind of crazy right now. But we was all together. And I never forget those days. And anytime any of y'all hit me up, like, yo, my birthday's whatever over here, like you trying to come through, I'm there. Yeah. Sunday night or I'm there, bro. Like we've been through this all together. And like we're like, again, while COVID was 2020 was 4 years ago, I feel like y'all are good friends. Like we're all good friends because we survived the craziest thing, and none of us like stop. None of us like are not doing nothing.
What I really like about specifically that group of people, it's like we don't have to see each other every day, and we know why we don't see each other every day. We know why we're not talking every day. It's because we're all like really kind of like headstrong on what we got going on. But whenever we do link up, whenever we talk, it's like we can just pick things right back up, and it's like cool. Yeah, and it's also dope when you know you don't have to like sugarcoat anything.
Right, facts.
Like you could come to me. I'm not saying this is true, but you could come to me and be like, "Yo, like Amazon just dropped the bag," and I'd be happy. I'm like, "Hell yeah!" Like double that next time. You know what I'm saying?
And you won because again, I told nobody. Yeah, I didn't tell nobody.
I thought a little bit early. Yeah,
I didn't tell nobody, but like you own social media, so you came. We was in front of Edge. You're like, yo, bro, I see you on TikTok, bro. And I think I had like 40,000 followers. You're like, yo, what's going on? And again, like normally, like again, I'm pretty reserved about that stuff. But I'm like, yo, bro, like you were genuinely happy for me. Yeah. And like again, that really stemmed from that moment where we were in those yards. We was playing nonstop, and that was the only thing we were doing. But like we was also building relationships. Yeah. I feel like COVID separated a lot of people. Like people fell victim to like, all right, these are my circumstances. I'm going to live with that. And they just never recovered from it. Yeah. And I think all of us, who was maybe not all of us, but the people who were hooping in the yard was doing things right now. We were like, yo, like we can take on anything. Like we took on that summer, and like we all got houses. You got married. Like it was crazy, bro. How they kind of grow from there. So when you say Rhode Island's on a rise, like I think those group of individuals, those group of young men who were in that backyard, like it's for something to say for it, man. For us, say for it.
100%. So I got a few rapid questions before we wrap things up. I know you might have more, but if you could name 2 of your best friends, what are their names?
I would say Frankie Dobbs is number 1, and I would say Jenny Lee is number 2.
Okay, so Frankie and Jen. If I go up to each of them and I say, what does Eric need to work on the most? What would each one of them tell me?
Frankie would say I probably need to go harder. And even though I'm going hard right now, he always tell me to go harder in terms of like what I got going on. We had a conversation the other day about like, bro, like this is our time. Like you gotta go, you gotta like get into it. And he has motion too right now too. So that's the big thing that he would always say is like, if you think you're going hard enough, because this guy was a college basketball coach, he was my roommate in college, like he knows me personally. He'd be like, yo, bro, like you can do more. Like you can do more because like now is the time. Like you have this right now, now is the time. So that's why he would say like to go harder. Jenny would probably say, what would Jenny say? She would probably say just to make sure I enjoy it a little bit more. Because sometimes I'd be locked in. Sometimes I maybe don't do as much on the outside. Like I'd be locked in with the fam. I'd be locked in with all this stuff like that. So she'd probably tell me to enjoy it more, but also talk about it more. And I think that's great advice to talk about it more because I just don't talk about it enough. I don't think I talk about it enough.
What's your most regretful purchase?
My most regretful purchase. Oh, that's a great question. Because if you know me personally, I don't really buy stuff. But when I buy stuff, I buy stuff. But I'd probably say my most regretful purchase is probably that candy at like 1 a.m. in the morning because I just want a sugar rush and it's probably not good. I don't really buy stuff like that, bro. I don't, bro.
I get it. You want the Walmart commercial. We got it. Candy at 1 a.m. Such a bad purchase.
I'm telling you,
candy at 1 a.m.
Bro, I don't buy stuff like that.
You are squeaky clean. We got it.
I really buy stuff.
All right. If you could have lunch with anyone, who would it be and why?
Kobe Bryant. If we could bring Kobe Bryant back, it would be for him. So like reading and basketball, like kind of helped me and shaped me into the person that I am today and really saved my life. Kobe Bryant and his mentality, bro. Like, I mean, I got the shirt on, but like, that's somebody who I just want to pick his brain.
Yeah.
And I mean, rest in peace, but like, that is somebody who I try to live every single day and like in terms of like manner myself after him. Now again, he wasn't perfect, but at the end of the day, it's like his mentality is something that I just want to like.
It was like a mama, right?
Yeah, mama mentality. Yeah, it's like I just want to pick his brain in terms of like even intricacies of that mentality. Like, oh, like what happens if this happens? Like, what's the counter to that in terms of like if things are down or if you're up, like how do you continue to stay up? Like you won a championship, how do you go in and win another one? So that would be somebody like no questions asked.
And when it's all said and done, how would you like to be remembered?
So I think about legacy a lot. And the biggest thing is just that I just want to be somebody who just help people. Like when you remember me, just know just I help people. Right. So you don't remember me for like the followers, remember for the clout. Just remember the fact that I am just a helper by nature. And I really still live by that today. Because so many people helped me along the way, bro. And on my tombstone, just say helper, man.
So I'm actually going to start this new like closing segment with you. I'm starting a new.
I watch your videos too, bro. So you gave me something new.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit you with something new. And it's going to be me asking for advice. So a lot of people don't understand that asking individuals for advice is a gateway to growth, right? Like if our ego gets in the way of asking for advice, we stunt ourselves. We might take the wrong turns. It's always beneficial to ask people who are doing something for advice, right? So, and I think the reason why we're so neglectful of it is because there's a sense of vulnerability. Okay. There's a sense of like, if I ask my videographer for advice, whatever that topic is, whatever that situation is, I am putting him above me in that aspect.
Yeah.
Or else I wouldn't be asking for advice.
Yeah.
So let me ask for your advice. If you are me and you are trying to grow your social media platform in the therapy and the wellness and the motivation and the self-improvement kind of lane, what are some improvements or what are some additions that if you were me, you would do with my social media?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think maybe not additions or improvements, but doubling down on the separation, doubling down on saying, I am different than other people in this space.
Okay.
I am different. I like, even, and again, mental health is not an entertainment, and I don't want to misconstrue that.
Mm-hmm.
But entertainment is what gets people into doing things that they may not think that they want to do. So that's kind of why my book stuff goes crazy. In terms of me giving you advice, my book stuff goes crazy because, like, I don't sit there as a, no disrespect to any librarians, because I love librarians, but I'm not a 70-year-old librarian sitting there telling you reading is fundamental. I am a 30-year-old Black individual saying reading is cool, and putting hip terms to it so you can understand it, and getting you into knowing the fact that you don't have to be a nerd, you don't have to be somebody who's a scholar, and you can read. Now, your big thing is, like, continue to double down on the fact that, hey, listen, like, while mental health is not a topic that's, like, sexy or anything like that, you can still, like, make it a thing to where people say, oh, you know what, bro, like, dang, based off his words, like, I really should check in with myself. And even if you make it some grand appearance or anything like that, like, keep doing that. Because that's what you do. You are somebody who's very personal, and you are somebody who kind of not, and the word's not dumbing it down. It's more like coming to your level to make you understand that this is very important, or like, this is dope, and you're not used to this, so you should keep doing that. And you should keep doing that because there's people in the space who take it too seriously. And it is a serious topic. I am not denying that. But for you to gain the people who are questioning the fact that, should I even go to a therapist? Or going to therapy is taboo. But by seeing your face and saying, like, yo, like, this is serious, but listen, like, we can make this a thing. Like, we can make this a thing. I think that's the biggest thing to separate from the space. Because, like, even me, like, seeing some of your content is like, bro, like, am I good? Like, I've been working straight for the past few days. Like, maybe I should check in with myself. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. And that's from the content, right? You just got to get the people in the door to understand. And the message is still the same, right? The message is still like, yo, take care of yourself. Make sure you're not doing this. Make sure you're not doing that. Like, medicine may not be the best thing for you. Like, all that stuff, but do it in a way to where it's, like, separates from what everybody else is saying. What all the people are saying, the people who are charging you $20,000 for a session to always say, I'm going to prescribe you Xanax or something like that. Like, just keep separating yourself from them. And that's what I found, that while people from the book community, they talk about scholarly, they talk about literacy, they talk about all that. I just talk about, let's talk about some fire books. I literally say fire books. And people are like, oh, okay, I know books to be fire, right? Like, I didn't know books to be fire, but, like, they relate to that. So keep doing that. And that's how you will keep growing in space. You already grown in space like that. You already know that, but double down on that. And listen, man, I'm going to have to do a podcast, have you on my podcast, man. Well, got to do that, bro. But yeah, keep doing that, man. And, as us, like, as black men, a lot of these topics aren't sexy. Books, mental health, not sexy.
Yeah.
But they're needed.
Yeah.
These topics are needed. And as you know, with books, there's a market out there. With mental health, there's a huge market out there, right? And it is a matter of you separating yourself from the people who made the market a stingy, boring market.
Very well said. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. We're in for an hour. I could talk to you for another hour, but I feel like you got some books to read when you get home or something.
I got a lot of books. This is dope, man. Yeah, keep doing this for sure.
So his IG will be in the bio.
TikTok will be in the bio.
His TikTok will be in the bio. His IG will be in the bio.
It won't be in the bio.
Any last words for the viewers?
Yeah, listen, I do that. I don't do this a lot. And Ray is a good friend of mine. And again, people say, oh, friendships should be years, decades. Me and Ray probably been really close for 4 years here. And I'm saying, like, close, but, like, we go back and forth. My biggest thing is that why I don't do this a lot, I'm doing this now because, like I was talking about my buddy Frankie, now is the time for everyone to, like, buckle down. And whatever idea you have, anything that you're thinking about, whether it's working out, whether it's doing makeup, whether it's talking about food, and that's the social media part of it. But, like, any idea you have, just do it, man. Like, I started this year with just saying, like, yo, I'm just going to work my job and call it a day. And now I got brands paying me to talk for, like, 20 seconds. And they're paying me, like, what most people make every month in, like, 20 seconds. So, like, just do it, man. Like, and you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not getting out your comfort zone, getting out your shell, and putting your purpose and putting what God put you on this earth to do to do, man. Like that's something that I really like now. Like talking about this now, like it's something I really want people to think about. Like just going after whatever.
It's so funny because, like, you know, off camera, I told you what I was investing in for myself.
Yeah.
So it's comforting hearing those words. That's like another level of separating myself and all that other stuff.
Yeah, man. But yeah, like anybody who's out there who's even thinking about has any idea, just do it for 6 months. Do it for 6 months, and if it flops, at least you know in the back of your mind that you did it. That you did it.
Yeah.
And that's it, man.
Well, thank you guys for watching this whole video.
Yeah.
Watch the other videos. We're on our way to 500 subscribers, and that's like a big number. If you know, you know. But we're almost at 500 subscribers, and we're going to keep on trucking. Y'all keep it smooth out there.